how to formulate indicators properly. There are a few basic ground rules that you want to bear in mind. First of all, when we're putting a definition, it's nothing more than a description of the unit of measurement and what is being observed. So it's the thing we're going to measure, yeah, so like a percentage of, and the thing that's being observed, a percentage of people trained in a particular skill, for example. The indicator must be neutral. So it's there to signal a change, but not the direction of the change. The direction of the change is actually captured in another element of the indicator, and that is our baseline and our target. It should not include the target. So the definition should say nothing about whether things are going to be increased, whether it's going to be 20%, and so on. It should be neutral. And especially if you're looking at small values like 0.4%, you wouldn't use a percentage to actually measure the change. So a 10% change in a value of 0.4%, that doesn't really mean very much. Yeah. So be careful when you use using percentages. You can use them in big numbers. So for example, a 25% increase in, I don't know, usage of public transport, that's fine. But for small values, avoid them. Okay, here's a bit of an example. So number of implemented measures defined in the Public Internal Financial Control Action Plan. There you go. It tells us what we're measuring. Yeah. So the implemented measures as defined in an action plan, and the unit of measurements is the number of these things. It doesn't contain any reference to a target or the direction in which we expect the indicator to move. So, for example, if there's a bad one, reduction of the number of accepted lawsuits and annulled decisions of the State Audit Commission. So there we say reduction in the number. So immediately we are infecting the definition with some kind of direction. Percentage of won bidded tenders in electronic procedures is less than 25%. There again, we have a target included in the definition, and we don't want that. I just want to show you at the end an example of what a good indicator contains. And it's here. There you see the title, yeah, which is percentage of women in senior positions in trade unions. And then next to that, there's a definition which explains in a bit more detail what's behind that indicator. So it tells us that we're talking about percentage of women in senior management positions in a trade union, which are a public sector trade union, okay? And senior position is defined by the schedules or the personnel policy of the trade union, yeah, and is at least a head of unit post, okay? So there it's clear what we know we're talking about a percentage, and we know what we're counting. So that meets the two basic criteria of our definition. And then we've got a baseline value, which is 15%, and the year, which is 2019. We have a target value of 25%. Yeah, that's 2025. And we have a milestone, an intermediate value, an intermediate target, which is 20% by 2023. Next to that, we have sources of information. So the sources that we'll use for this are the trade union report, and the Department of Statistics within the trade unions is the source of the data, the generator of the data. The institution who owns the indicator, i.e. the poor people who have to go and collect this data and report on it, this is the Public Administration Reform Unit of the Ministry of Interior, and the frequency that we collect data to report on this is annual.